Hello to you. It's quite a list. Tax cuts, 3 million new jobs and an end to reckless risk-taking and greed on Wall Street. Just days before he takes over as President of the US, Barack Obama has set out his plan to put its economy back on track and painted the grimmest picture yet of the need for it. It's likely to cost at least $800 billion. He's fighting his first big political battle even before he enters the White House, and congressional support, even from his own party, is not guaranteed. From Washington, Adam Brooks.
This is his first big political battle, and he's not even president yet. Can he persuade Congress to approve a colossal effort to restart America's economy? We must act fast, he said today, and decisively.
I don't believe it's too late to change course, but it will be if we don't take dramatic action as soon as possible. If nothing is done, this recession could linger for years. The unemployment rate could reach double digits.
His warnings today were more dire than those we've heard from him before. He's piling on the pressure for action. Obama's plan would pump money into public works projects, putting people to work on roads and bridges, pushing money from the government to companies and workers. 3/4 of all government buildings would be modernized. He would invest in new energy projects and technologies, creating, said Obama, a whole new engine of green growth, doubling production of alternative energy in 3 years. And through tax cuts and all sorts of special measures, his plan would try to rescue America's moribund housing sector. The cost to the government, enormous of course, perhaps $750 billion, much of it borrowed money.
There is no doubt that the cost of this plan will be considerable. It will certainly add to the budget deficit in the short term. But equally certain are the consequences of doing too little or nothing at all. For that will lead to an even greater deficit of jobs, incomes, and confidence in our economy.
But all of this must be approved by Congress. And the worry here is that the borrowing will saddle Americans with public debt for years to come.
I think one of the biggest concerns, of course, is that it is going to be expensive, and it's going to be hard to pass a package that's going to be the right package, one that's going to be effective.
If Mr. Obama's stimulus package passes through Congress and passes quickly, it'll be a sign that he has a powerful new political consensus working for him. If it doesn't pass, if it founders on the rocks of politics as usual, well, perhaps it'll be a sign that he won't be the potent, powerful new president so many people are hoping for. Adam Brooks, BBC News, Washington.
What a lineup. All of America's living presidents joined the newest member of their club in the Oval Office that each of them has occupied and that soon will be his. Welcome back to BBC World News America. Every living member of what may be the world's most exclusive club gathered for lunch here in Washington today. 3 former US presidents joined the current one to welcome the newest member to their ranks. President-elect Barack Obama took part in the ceremonial Oval Office gathering. It was a brief respite from his full-time focus on how to revive America's faltering economy. Our North America editor, Justin Webb, has the story.
Truth be told, it was, as well as being historic, a little chaotic and slightly awkward. Rain forced them inside to the Oval Office, which, it turns out, is big enough for 5 presidents, but not for the media scrum they attract. When they'd sorted themselves out, the host gave a gracious welcome.
We wish you all the very best, and so does the country.
Thank you so much.
Sir.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
They're all older than Mr. Obama, and they probably all think they're wiser. He was happy to indulge them.
For me to have the opportunity to get advice, good counsel, and fellowship with these individuals is extraordinary, and I'm very grateful to all of them. But again, thank you, Mr. President, for hosting us.
A hint of conversations to come as the press left.
I love this rug.
Bill Clinton liked the carpet. Mr. Bush and he were last seen comparing flooring notes.
The eagle we took from this.
In another room, Laura Bush was also busy, showing off some of the new gold-rimmed state china. It all had the feel of pleasant ceremony before tougher times. Barack Obama knows full well that the White House tableware will be the last thing on his mind come January the 20th. He is ready for business now with what he believes is a gold-rimmed top team. Larry Summers, a figure from the Clinton years, will lead the National Economic Council as Obama's principal economic advisor He'll help plan the administration's response to the financial meltdown. He says doing too little poses a greater threat than doing too much. On the world stage, Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State, will be America's face. The Middle East will be an early priority. Mrs. Clinton has pledged to stand with Israel against terrorism, but she's also an enthusiastic supporter of Palestinian statehood, backing the idea before it became US policy. Mrs. Clinton will be a vigorous diplomat, the toughest of negotiators. Some say this man, Leon Panetta, is not tough enough. His job, heading the CIA, has not yet been announced, but is expected soon. Mr. Panetta, a former White House chief of staff, has no intelligence experience, but he has got strong views on torture. We must not use it, he says. We are better than that. As the president drove off into the Washington gloom, attention was turning to Capitol Hill, where Obama needs to get his legislation and his people passed and approved. Confirmation hearings for Hillary Clinton and for the new Treasury Secretary are due next week. Talks on the economic stimulus package have already begun. Long lunches and fine china are giving way to urgent business. Justin Webb, BBC News, Washington.
And the most urgent of that business is the US economy. To look more at that, I'm joined here by John Bussey. He's Washington bureau chief for the Wall Street Journal. Thanks so much for coming in, John. Before we get on to the stimulus package, and President-elect Obama's going to talk more about that tomorrow, we have to just look at that photo. That's one for the history books, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And I would imagine that these other four presidents are thinking a couple of things. One is, this is a very organized administration coming in. They have their cabinet seats. They have a number of aides below the cabinet level already picked, record time. The second thing they're probably thinking is, I am really happy that I'm not in his shoes, because the economic problems that Obama faces and his team faces, Larry Summers, Tim Geithner over Treasury, are immense.
Well, having said that, though, he looked pretty comfortable, I thought, in that Oval Office today, Barack Obama himself.
He has this sense of confidence about him. We had an interview today with one of his cabinet members. He stopped by, he was shaking hands. The transition's going very smoothly. Let's
talk a little bit about this economic stimulus plan, and we're going to have a statement from President-elect Obama tomorrow, specifically on the economy. What are you expecting to hear him to say?
You're going to hear him outline the program in sort of broad strokes, but some of the details that have been coming out in our paper and other locales, that this is going to include a major tax cut for both individuals and for businesses, is designed to speed this large stimulus program, somewhere between 700 and 800 billion US dollars, through the Congress. That tax cut is meant to appeal to Republicans who would much prefer money going into the hands of individuals and businesses than being spent by the government. The other thing, that argument that I think that you're going to hear Obama make, is that it's all designed to create jobs, 3 million of them. And that's how you get an economy moving again. The best way to maybe spend $700 to $800 billion is through tax cuts where individuals and businesses are making the decisions.
Today, in a press conference, he also said he wanted to do two things. He wants to create jobs, as you've just said, but he also wants to reorganize the US economy in order to make savings in the long term. Are those two things mutually compatible?
Well, right now, people are saving, and that's a problem, right? The consumer is looking out over the economic horizon and is very, very unsettled. They see unemployment rising. They're worried about their own economic and job security. So they're saving. At some point, he's going to want to find a way to re-encourage the consumer, more than 2/3 of the U.S. economy, to start spending again. One of the things he's referring to when he talks in those terms is,
in terms of the long-term economy and reorganizing the American economy,
is reorganizing American entitlement programs, Social Security, Medicaid, these prices, and Medicare, that costs continue to rise. And he's been very explicit about trying to find ways to contain these big national programs that are costing the Treasury a great deal, the U.S. Treasury a great deal. Right now, he's facing an enormous, probably $1 to $1.2 trillion U.S. deficit. That'll be a record.
John Bussey of the Wall Street Journal, thanks very much, as ever.